the content. Welcome to Home Biz Tax Talk. My name is Lysandra Everett. I am the Home Biz Tax Lady where I help home business owners win the tax game. Home Biz Tax Talk airs Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish. And when you tune into my show, you're going to hear about topics that are important to the home business community. And today I want to talk about spouses being in business. Okay, so there are plenty of situations where spouses are great and they can actually work together. Right? That is awesome when people can actually work together in a relationship. But let's talk about what that looks like because I've gotten some more questions about this. And so I want to make sure that spouses are clear on how this whole thing works. So as spouses being in business, you can either be partners or you can be a qualified joint venture. And those are really two different things and they're operated differently. Now, let me say this. If you as a husband and wife form a multi-member LLC, then that is treated as a partnership. Okay. And so then you will have an additional return to file. You will have to file a 1065 partnership return that is due in March. Okay. And then your personal return that is due in April. And so the profits and losses will pass through to each person through to the personal return based on the amount of, the ownership of, profits, losses, capital, that kind of thing. Okay. Now, otherwise, you can also form a qualified joint venture. And what that means is that you've got a couple, a husband and wife, however your spouse is set up, okay? Don't come for me with crazy stuff, all right? So you have two spouses who are working in a business and they are both working the business, okay? So you could have, like I have a client, both of them are they do nurse stuff. Okay, I forgot exactly what they do, but you know what? But both of them work the business. Both of them get business. Both of them go see clients. So they both work the business. So with the qualified joint venture, though, the difference is that it's still one tax return versus with the multi-member LLC, it's two, the 1065 and all of that. And so when you're talking about the qualified joint venture, it is definitely critical that the return be filed the right way, because sometimes what happens is that spouses really do go into business together, but they only have one person that is actually claiming the business. So it could be the husband, it could be the wife, whatever, right? So, but the problem with that comes down to the Social Security and Medicare tax, because at the end of the day, when, we get to Social Security age, if only one person has been claiming the business when it's really a qualified joint venture, only that one person is getting credit for Social Security. So when it comes, so when that other person goes to apply for Social Security, they're like, okay, but we don't have no Social Security payments for you. So, so it's important for you to understand how that qualified joint venture works so that you're not just making an assumption that it's being done the right way. A qualified joint venture return has to be filed a specific way for it actually to credit both spouses with Social Security and Medicare tax when it comes down to filing. Now, with partnerships, if you are, if you're actually partners and you guys, whether you form a multi-member LLC or you're saying, okay, we're going into this 50-50, then you file that partnership return, and that partnership agreement, will spell out how the business is going to run, and your share of the profits and losses will then be, like I said, passed through on the K-1 to each person to claim on the personal return. So, so like I said, you have to be crystal clear. This is why I tell you to go talk to people before you go and do this stuff, because the devil is in the details when it comes down to running a business. And then also how you get paid. With a qualified joint venture, it's a little bit easier to manage in that you really have one business that you're how you're divvying out the money, how you're paying the couple, right? How you can say, okay, this is how much we are going to take from the business whether it's every week, twice a month, however you pay yourself, right? But with a partnership, though, the difference is that if you're going to pay a salary, then you have to specify and figure out how much you're going to pay each person. Okay. So for instance, if my husband and I were to form a partnership and then we want to get paid every month, then we have to say, okay, you're going to get this much in guaranteed payments and you're going to get this much in guaranteed payments. And so guaranteed payments then reduce the amount of profit to the partnerships. It's considered an expense. But again, this is all, it all comes through on the K1. And, with the partnership, you really have to track. The tracking with a partnership is really deep because you got to track, who's, the capital, you're tracking the basis, of what each person is contributing to the partnership. And, and like I said, in partnerships, a lot of times you've got one person with money and one person with time. And so the person that's giving all the time, that's usually doing all the legwork, you really need to put a value on that and establish that in the beginning, because you might not get guaranteed payments in the beginning, but you might have a specific ownership amount of the business. And so when it comes down to distribution of profits, then the person that's putting in the time should also receive something, as well as the person that's putting in the money. So, regardless of whether you do the qualified joint venture or you actually form a partnership or a multi-member LLC, you really got to sit down with this partnership agreement and figure out how you're going to operate the business. Who's going to take care of the money? Who's going to take care of getting clients? All the things that are required to run a business. You've got to spell this out in this partnership agreement, because when you start getting in heated moments, times get tough, whatever, you have a working document that tells you, hey, this is what we said we were going to do. And, and that's what you do. And can partnership agreements be altered? Absolutely. Because you can't think of everything. As much as we try to go through and dot our I's and cross our T's, there's always some crazy thing, Murphy's Law, that happens that will then need to be addressed in the partnership. But even with spouses, this is where it becomes super important, because you're not just talking about business owners, you're talking about relationships. And as much as people try to say, well, we keep business and personal separate, but I don't know who actually does that. Because you know what, when you're dealing with business and it's all together, and so that's why you sit down and you write these things out, because, like I said, when you get in the thick of things and stuff is not going right, you need to have these things kind of worked out on paper to say, this is what we said we were going to do. And also, and when you're talking about a partnership, you still got to figure out, if one person doesn't want to play in the sandbox anymore, how is one person going to get out? Can one person sell their piece of the pie to someone else? And so, so I tell people, like, you really need to have some serious conversations before you even start making any money. Because if you can't hammer these things out before the money comes, what do you think is going to happen when the money starts rolling in? And when it comes down to partnerships, you guys, not one person is the boss, right? You really got to work together on this. And then in that partnership agreement, you're going to spell out who is going to be the ultimate decision maker. What is, how are you going to handle when the two partners don't agree? What is going to be the process, to get to some sort of resolution? Will you hire someone, a third party, to come in and have this discussion? Go to a consultation about whatever that is. How are you going to do it? And so if you get those difficult conversations out of the way first before you go into business, then doing business is going to be easier. But you got to sit down and have those conversations. So a qualified joint venture really is like a sole proprietorship where both spouses are working, but there's some nuances to filing the tax return. And then, but with the partnership, it's a completely different thing. There's a separate tax return. You gotta, you really need, in either case, you need to have an agreement written out that says how you're going to do business. What is one person going to be responsible for? What's the other person going to be responsible for? Are you going to bring on another partner if you decide to do that? How is that, that decision going to be made? Who can bind the business to anything, whether it's a project or, find a loan or anything? Who can bind the business to those things? So those are the type of things that need to be worked out when you've got more than one person in business, period. Okay. So yeah, spouses can be qualified joint ventures, but like I said, there's a specific way to do that. All right. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to Home Biz Tax Talk. Again, we air Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish, and you can tune in right here to get your questions answered about your home business taxes. All right. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.